And I started asking myself how much of this knowledge I was able to apply in the physical reality. And I told myself that I needed to start basically making my consciousness, higher self, or whatever, give me knowledge about things that were going to assist me in this reality. Because it seemed like it always loved to go into like the other planets and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I love the knowledge and everything, but I will often find when I will wake up that there would be nothing that I could actually come into the reality and help myself with specifically. And when I asked about that, I was told because that's how I was focusing my energy. So I started focusing my energy on getting knowledge about higher things that could be applied in the reality right now. And this is what came to me, but I had to build it. And because in the first phase, I was like trying to get people to understand what I was trying to build, like engineers and CAD guys and stuff. And all I was doing was ending up with a bill and not what I wanted. So then I started, of course, in the process of training myself. That's why you always see some machine around me or 3D printer or mill or something like that, because I'm fabricating constantly. Like I'm always making and creating, shaping and forming and fashioning different things to see what is the potential of the energetic fields, because I know the reality contains what I call power gloves. These are quirks in the reality. Like we had one before where I had this house in the room, there was a dome in the room was domed. And it turned out that underneath this room, they were going to make a wine cellar, but they decided not to. But the area was still hollow and you never knew it because they put a floor over it. But somehow when you got in a certain point of this room and you talked, you couldn't hear your voice, but the person in the room could. And it was like you were talking in their head. This is known to happen. It's like an acoustic thing, and it happens at a sweet spot in the curve. And so those kind of things and many more piqued my interest to realize that, hey, these folks be running around here acting like they discovered everything already, but really they haven't. After all, they're pretty ignorant. So if you crack into the knowledge, don't think that you're not going to potentially discover something that nobody has ever found out, because they're constantly hiding any of this stuff, right? So it's just that awareness that, once again, that, you know, we're not only able to create, but like I said, I also have even been able to create these things and bring them out to humanity. And these are the things that we're going to be giving away. In fact, we're going to be giving away two cuboctahedrons, 2 watches. And then I'm also going to be giving the generative AI course away that I did, because it would teach a person how to do everything with making the images, how to even do the video thing. You know, I want to link up with you too, because we talked before about, you know, at least sponsoring some of this stuff and putting it on the channel. And but I just need to know, of course, what resonates right with you. And, you know, I just want to, just spread the knowledge more and spread these gifts more. And this stuff happens for me because I also remember I'm literally in the jungle, so I have no real distraction like that. So I have a lot of time to really, like, I could tell you that somebody would spend probably at least 10 years trying to make this. Like at one point, we was always like, when we were in, again, I speak in a collective, when we was engineering this, I often thought like, man, you know, somebody could take my design, right? And it's so hard to crank one of these out. I thought that I'd be flattered if somebody did, because even the moment they got to the bezel, they'd be like, oh man, we ripped it up, broke it up. You know, so anyway, I just was, like I said, it's a lot of things that you can create when you have the time to, right?
Yeah, so, definitely. Oh man, well, last question, Sevan. Like I said, we definitely got to do a part 2. We going on 5 hours, brother. We go
small things to a giant.
We go to a 5 hour. Listen, all right, last question, brother. If we're analyzing this thing we call life in terms of a video game, and you know, I'm gonna reference Mike Tyson's Punch Out since I'm an 80s baby. You know, you got the first fighter, second fighter, third fighter. The last fighter was Mike Tyson.
Glass Joe first.
Glass Joe was the first fighter. Joe was the first fighter. Last fighter was Mike Tyson. Real hard to beat for a lot of people. A lot of people to this day never beat Mike Tyson.
Yeah, they never got past Ball Bull.
Yeah.
The second Ball Bull.
If we're looking at, you know, let's say the Great Mother, and this is her video game that she's playing, not just Earth, but the whole universe. It's a video game that's being played by the Great Mother, and there's different levels. would you say Earth is the last character, the Mike Tyson? Is it the most difficult level in the video game because it's the most dense, the most advanced souls make it here because it's the most. I mean, this shit. You come here, you got amnesia. You might have a mother that's a crackhead. Then you might get tortured. Then you might go through trauma. Then after that, your baby mama cheat on you. Then after that, your kids are bad. Like anything can happen. That's the point.
Yeah,
Infinite possibilities.
Anybody
Anything can happen. You lose your memory. You forget who you are. Simultaneously, you're being brainwashed. Is this the most difficult level in the whole universe for any soul to play? I mean, and after this, you done beat the game. There's nowhere else to go, Sevan. Jupiter, Saturn, nothing is as difficult as Earth. Would you say it's like that, my brother?
My take on this is first of all, the great mother doesn't like games. This is kind of like when you go into your grandmother's house and she's just like so strict, and it's like everything is in order. My experience has been with the great mother exactly like that. The jackal loves games, though. He's literally a jester. He's a joker. And in that way, in his trickster-like behavior, he has created many of these. It's like a smile now, cry later kind of scenario where it seems like a dramatic comedy. That's kind of like what it is, like a divine comedy.
Right.
But people really get hurt, right? Yeah. And it's a sadistic laughing like a Joker. Like, you know how they show Joker on the movie where he's smiling, but it's really because of all the pain. And it's almost like they show people when they get crazy. Like they had just one really dark movie. I just, you see the trailer and you just know what they on. And it was called Smile or something like that. And it was showing this weird grimace, which is the term, occult term is grimace. It's a part of the Reaper. So there's other forms here and they're not as nice. And when they appear with a very sinister type of smile, and it's all darkness, right? So it's all craziness. I'll just say it like that. So in that way, it's kind of like a person that becomes a lunatic. Like you start being in something so long because at the end of the day, this could drive a person psycho because it's a cycle, right? So they're consistently repeating this cycle over and over again. If they can't figure out what's going on, it starts to drive them crazy. And then they start to kind of get like binded to it, right? And so from my experience, the game-like nature to this reality that's so much of a joke right now is a product of the jackal. Versus in the great mother's reality, it is more of like what you're explaining, where there's things to learn.
Right.
So what this is what they call the lamb on the path. It's like you kind of left the path and now you're kind of in Wonderland. But when you return back to the path and you continue your journey. And this journey, it consists of like walking through the halls of your ancestors and absorbing all the wisdom and the knowledge that they have. So in Earth is still one of the ancestors, or even the jackal is one of the ancestors. This is another thing that people need to understand. In the lines in these lineages, it's not like they're going to go and kill the jackal. This would be very similar to walking into somebody else's family and saying, kill the father because he did X. You don't even have the rank to do that. Like, so it's like a highborn being killed by a lowborn is not really even approved in that way, right? In the whole scheme of things with the royal families and holy families and this kind of thing, right? So this could perpetuate for quite a bit externally. Internally, you have really a lot of power unless you fall out of power. And that's what we were saying about the hereditary passing of where somebody can kind of like doom you a little bit, like your mom can doom you a little bit, and you have to kind of swim. That's why we have a saying around here, keep swimming. And what we're talking about is getting to the surface. Because a lot of times people are looking to even get to zero again, because where they're at is like negative 30 in the degrees, right? Their base, lo-fi, right? So they're really low in their frequency. And, and versus not saying low frequency is a bad thing. There's a lesson there. Sub infrared is the realm. You could see them if you weren't exposed to light for 2 weeks, you could see the other entities. They live in the sub-red realm, what they call it? Infrared, right? They're infrared, literally. That's actually what you see them. They move around like red shadows.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? And if the more you don't be exposed to light, because your pineal gland closes when you're exposed to light. And that's why you should understand kind of like the whole role of light in a reality is actually to blind you. That's why they call it blinded by the light.
Right, right.
And so when you're also remember the sun, remember I said it's still more like the great mother's principle, because it's like those are the machinations that are dynamos, but this is not the same sun. This is the sixth sun, right? So the sixth sun, in this case, all these suns roll through like processors in the morning.
Right.
They're CPUs. So when they come through, they process what's in the cloud. That's where they stole that from. The sun, it comes forward and it has creatures. I can't tell you what they are. I've seen them before. And when they come, they run and they gather the cloud. And what you can see the cloud is like when a person is dreaming, they build a cloud. Okay. And all of the dream is in that cloud. Then when the sun comes in the morning, it sends, they say they go and they come. That's the only thing I've ever read. They go and they come. And when I witnessed them, they're like dogs in a way that they go and they get a cloud and then they bring it back to the processor. And they're more like, look. And then the processor acknowledges it and it absorbs it. And then it goes and runs again. So it's almost like a way of fetching everything that everybody has been dreaming about that night. And the sun processes that like a CPU.
Right.
So in conclusion, I kind of see everything to be still within this divine design of you got the jokers and the tricksters and they exist on one level. They call them like when you take any kind of substances, you see them first. Okay. Peep out how this works. Cause you can always prove this stuff that I'm saying. Mm-hmm. When you first take DMT, the first thing that happens is the ground seems like it's moving. Mm-hmm. So if you're on the beach, you'll watch the sand go like this. If you're in the jungle, you'll watch the ground move. And this is because what you generally activate first is the root chakra, and the root chakra corresponds to the ground. And because your root chakra is now moving, it looks like the ground is moving. Okay. However, as you keep going on more and more journeys and the Kundalini starts rising, the ground stops moving and other things start moving. Right. So this is an indicator that wherever your Kundalini is residing is what you're going to see animated when you enter into these higher states of consciousness, right? Or into any altered state of consciousness where, you know, you're now utilizing your spiritual vehicles and your spiritual capacity. So what this equals is it equals the ability for you to, yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of explained it all there. It's like you have now like these vehicles that allow you to move in and through different spaces, but based on the levels. And that's why I was showing before that the jackal, he inverted himself and he became the external genitalia Tubal Cain. So, of course, when you activate the root chakra, also, if you notice, the first thing that you see, even when your eyes are closed, is it looks like a kaleidoscope of jokers. Anybody who's gone on DMT, everybody sees it. Most people don't know what it is. It's like a kaleidoscope of jokers, and it feels like they're so close to you that they're like humping your face, and it's very uncomfortable because you're like trying to not see them, but you see them when your eyes close because your third eye is open. This is the joker. This is the jackal. This is the root chakra. So it's because that world is built there, and this is where you're at. You see what I mean? So if you take that knowledge and you use celestial mechanics, as we call it, this is where you're at. Technically, when you first begin, you kind of start off in the median or in Midgard. So technically, think about where you're at. When you cross land, you got the deep, which is more like your legs, right? And it's going way down there. And then you got all the way up here to the top, which is like that realm that I told you that's just like all white and everything sounds really high pitched. But where you're at is you're on Earth. You're in the median. Where Earth is a median, as I mentioned in my last conversation, is where all of the gods settle their disputes, or all the family members settle their disputes. Like it's like a sovereign in a courtroom. When something is decreed, it doesn't happen to that sovereign. We don't punish that sovereign. it happens to the species he's connected to. That's how they figured that out, right? So they don't war and fight amongst each other. It all happens down here in the median. This is the mediation zone, right? And so because of that, if what you're saying, to put what you're saying in perspective, technically this gets complicated the more you drill into, like, basically the more distorted or further away aspects of the reality from self. That's why it seems so difficult. Baby mama leaving, all this stuff crazy going around you. Like I said, like it gets to a point where you can't even imagine where all this stuff is coming from because you got so many crazy things going on. But what you'll notice is when you get your life together and you have a moment to stop and remove like stimulation. And like I did that when I came to Costa Rica, you'll start noticing like it'll clear, like you'll go through a course of where all the karma is working itself out. And then you'll get into this like where there's no karma because you're not doing anything. Like I literally was in the house every single day just meditating and eating like palm heart sandwiches. You know what I mean?
Right.
Nothing, right? No stimulus. And in that, I never had like so basically if you don't do nothing, nothing happens. Right? If you do great things happen. If you do bad things, expect it. It's going to come around at some point. And if it's too much stuff, you won't even be able to know where it all is coming from. You just think it's a part of life. And really what it is it's kind of like a part of the trickery. Because remember, there's also entities, and we going, but there's also entities that they're listening. Like they're listening all around to figure out where they can catch you up on something. Like that's how the kingdom, if you say the kingdom of Seth, the subservients of the kingdom of Seth that are already disincarnate, meaning they don't have bodies, so they won't be entering back into the physical plane to get money, which money doesn't stop here. It's like an energetic balance energy thing, current. To get money, they have to cause like some confusion. So they're basically ranked like the military. And that's why like a warlock will have like 10,000 demons. Like he's like the Lord of the Mice. Jeanette made a joke the other day, and she was saying that we were seeing these lions on National Geographic, right? But they had all these flies and shit in their face. And she thought about it for a minute. She said, "What good is it being a lion if you're always disturbed by the flies?" That shit was brilliant because all that power. Yeah, you may be able to run down all these gazelles and shit, but the flies is just. And you don't got no hands for that. All you got is a tail, right? It's just, again, an ode to where you really resting your power at and what do you really find to be powerful, right? And so, yeah, that's the story of this, is that if we see how the design is, we'll actually understand that the more you clear your field of stuff that you just know is going to enter you into confusion, the more you start getting to, like we say, get me to ground zero, like at least sea level, so I can poke my head out of the water. Right. Because when you're in the negs, there's all types of restrictions and confinements there, even jail. Okay, all that is netherworld stuff, right? And then you break the surface. Now you're balanced. Okay, now you don't have debt. You don't owe anybody. Right. And then now you start climbing from there. And then as you're climbing, the reality becomes more and more free. And it becomes less and less like a joke, less and less like it doesn't mean anything. And then it starts having more and more importance. Right. So that's kind of what's going on with the directions of when reality starts becoming really strict and confined and hard versus as it starts getting easier. And it seems like the celestials and everything is working in your favor. Yeah.
Wow, amazing, my brother. Definitely amazing. Hey, I'm scared to ask another question because we might go another hour, brother. we might we might be here. Oh man, wow, what a lot, man. I'm gonna go back, take some notes from tonight.
We did a high five right here. So what is that? 5 hours and 22 minutes.
Yeah. Listen, man, I definitely appreciate it. We got to do a part 2, Sevan. Got to do a part 2.
No doubt. That's almost like a quarter of a day.
Leave your website. When you started showing your stuff, them gadgets, man, the people was like, where can I get that at? Tell the people about your website.
I found out that hydrogen is like a game changer. And there's so much research, like real doctor, like .gov research on getting hydrogen in the body to fix everything. And apparently, in conclusion, if I summarize it, which I will, what it's doing is it has a way of teaching all of the other molecules in your body what they used to be. Somehow what happens in the body is that it loses some of the molecules and forms lose kind of an awareness of what they supposed to do and what their functions are. But the hydrogen being number one seems to know how to go in the body and teach all of the elements how to put themselves back together. Also, it's like drinking a stimulant, but without the shakes, right? Like you drink caffeine, you get the shakes. This is like drinking something that you feel more power because it's oxygenating your blood, but you don't feel that because it's hydrogen, so it's being immediately digested into the body. Yeah. So that's where you would be able to find those things at the Secret Energy. And then if you want to check out that free trial of Sybil, it's at Sybil's AI. Yeah. And like I said, man, if we band together on this one, man, you won't regret it, because as things unfold, you can kind of see that it's getting like, man, we just have way more opportunities. Like we already brought this into the community and the kids love it. They've been creating their own characters, image generation, robotics. They've been learning this stuff, and it's keeping them stable, right? Because kids, they have fertile minds. So it doesn't mean that they'll be doing this forever or that they get hooked and hijacked. And that's TikTok. It has a tendency to need some thinking. And it's really about just seeing if the child likes it. And if you have several children, you always want to figure out which is the one that likes this or likes to do this and likes to do that. And if you have a child that's technically inclined, meaning they playing a lot of video games, you need to get them into generative technology, because now they're making movies, they're creating their own book, they're making their own images. So instead of like being in there on Call of Duty shooting somebody or being in some nightmare zombie game, which is all the stuff that they're creating now, they actually immediately move into the position of creators. And that's why it's called generative technology, because right away you're getting an add to value. You're able to generate something. Like you generate that image is yours right there, right? So then you got all these naysayers, you shouldn't do that and all that, but you had your book complete. You could have started an art gallery. You could have done all these different things that could have put a rocket on your back and taken you out of the clutches of GINDJAB, right? But that's not going to happen with a person not being extremely focused and understanding their purpose. So that's what it is. And also just remember, we're here as the mentors, we're pillars. There's others that are here. Obviously, you got Brother Rich. You got so many brothers, like I always see in this channel. Like I catch it when I'm in. Don't be surprised. You'll be seeing me in the chat all the time or something. I'm there. I'm always absorbing and listening and learning. And so I'm always elated with what's going on in this space. And I'm always of service. So at the end of the day, anything that needs to happen, you can always count on me. I just say in the future, we need to have at least one of us. Hopefully there's 10, 20, but at least one of us that really understands and is looking out for us of what we're doing as things continue to unfold, right?
I agree. So, I definitely agree, my brother.
Somebody else can slide up in that position, which you can get. Yeah. All right. So that's what it is, family. Much love.
Hey, I think I'm definitely gonna have to get that cosmic clock. I'm on your website. I see the.
Hey, man, I might have to do something special for you, man. Just hit me up, man.
I'm gonna hit you up tomorrow, man. I got to get that cosmic clock, y'all.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna hit up.
It's the at minimum. It's a beautiful collection piece. Like, yeah.
That's gonna go good, man. Yeah. I'm feeling
that thing, in the light or blind cats. Oh.
Indeed.
Turn them to stone now.
Oh man. Wow. Hey, what a show, Sevan. I want to thank everybody. Thank you. I see a couple of people still sending super chats. Thanks for everybody who shows support just by watching. Number one, that's support. And for those who also show support by donating with the super chat, hitting up Sevan's website, everything I got going on, it's definitely well needed. But I definitely appreciate y'all staying up to, if you're on the Eastern time. Yeah, it's 2:21 in the morning my time. So
in here, everybody was riding out. We give thanks.
Yeah.
And I'll remember on Sunday, I'm gonna come on tomorrow. What is it? No, excuse me. I'm gonna come on Sunday at 11:30 Central Standard Time, and then 30 minutes later, it's all gonna open up. So if you want to be in there, like in the beginning, it's gonna run for 7 days. The quest. Check me out. Like you can see it on my channel or whatever. You'll see that I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna kind of launch it all off. You can also register now. You'll see the links, and yeah, we just showing love. Like that's all we do. We keep building. Like stay positive. Like I'm always on the positron side. My angle is slightly bent towards the positive, and that way I can keep putting up.
Hey, with that
Yeah.
being said, this is Brother Rich, Sevan, Bomar. Thank you once again to everybody. Appreciate, and we signing out, family. See you next time. Peace.
Yeah. Let me finish. Yeah, exactly. Thank you for bringing me back into the awareness. So where does this pentagram come from? So if you look at the hand, right? So the hand is also 5, and the pentagram also is 5, and this is also phi, which is PHI, right? So it's an actual geometry, or it's called the sacred cut. So it's an actual geometry that is being used to actually create the body. So in this respect, this is also called the R, which is AR, which means a hammer, a light hammer. And what this is synonymous to is that the hands themselves are gods. And sometimes you can witness this, if you really are blowing open the third eye and you look at your hands and you'll see that each finger is a god. Because what happens is that the gods, they're focused at the point of the spiral inside of your finger, because they're like, in themselves, the minotaurs inside of the maze. So again, when these halves and parts of the body are all working together, then they're actually building something and creating something. And this can seem to be magic. So it's like what exactly the body is when you pull off the GUI, or the layer of what you're calling the reality, what's really existing underneath there. And then when you start seeing that, that's of course now like introducing you to principalities. It's introducing you to things that are like why things are the way they are. Like that's kind of why when you get to that. And that's why it does have a lot to do with genealogy. It does have a lot to do with the archetypes, because you start seeing that, wow, this thing is alive. It actually has a personality. But what you also notice is, but it can't seem to get out of its personality, which is some things that you'll notice about human beings, is that it's like they are them, but they don't necessarily have that floating point to become something else, or like a new sum total. They just like solidified in that. And I'm not saying what's right and I'm not saying what's wrong. I'm just saying that technically, if you need to become everything, which is the quest here, because that would be to return to the original self, because you are all, then you would need to go through these processes and procedures of basically being able to connect into yourself and who you truly are in a balanced way. And if you constantly had nightmares going on in your mind about what you thought everything really was, and who you thought you were really going to meet, and what you think their power really is, and all that kind of stuff, and then you just kept manifesting madness inside of your mind, you would not even really be able to travel. And that's how people can get trapped in a prism, for real. Like you can get trapped in light. And all of this stuff that you're seeing with like those mechanics to the reality, like when you look at the tetragrammaton, and you look at the pentagrammaton or the pentagram, you're at its most core level, you can tell the danger, because human beings can be dangerous. They're like weapons. Like if they're completely activated, they are very, very dangerous. And so it is one of those things where it's like your parents are not going to give you the key to the vehicle so that you can wreck yourself into a star, basically, if you're guided. But there are misguided beings. And so what we also look to do is we look to guide the misguided beings. That's like called a lighthouse, right? So it's like you shine a beacon, you give an example, you set a mold, and then a template, and then you say, hey, this is a way to make it from where you're at into the next level of the ladder. Because the thing about the ladder is that, and that's why you always got to respect even the netherworld and all that kind of stuff, is because when somebody is ready to climb, the next step needs to be there, no matter where they're at. But if you remove that next step because you didn't approve of how it was, because you felt like it was evil or whatever, what you're doing is you're not giving the beings that are in a step below that the opportunity to keep rising. But it does also say that, behold, I saw the ladder going up and down. That is a very, very cryptic message, and it is very real that there is things ascending and descending. And this is why, unless you have a true eye, you cannot judge. You have not reached the state of being a real judge, because you will judge wrong. You don't know at times, like even when you see the worst person, if they were even worse before, or when you see a really good person, if they were like even better before and they're actually going down, they're getting less and less good. You don't know that unless you have a real eye, unless to be a real judge. And so it's like all of these positions, if you notice, even when you say you want to lead people, like when you want to be a star, it is a huge mantle, because there's a certain level of responsibility that comes with when somebody sends energy to you, to make sure that you are configured in a way that sends the energy back to them. And then it's like because that's also how we're supposed to do, right? We build off each other, we encourage each other, but that has to happen in so many different dynamics. And when you have like thousands of people, millions of people focusing all on one person and filling that person with light, you got to know that that person can't hold all that light. So they got something else around them that is like a battery, like a storage container that will then hold that light for them. So this is how also the mismanagement of the financial system is conducted. So because a person then gives up all of, like you got millions of people giving up all their light to one person, and then you got all that light concentrated in that one being, and then you got that being trapped in an inverted pyramid generally, right? Yes. So then all the power, and this happens in money, right? Because there's a denominator, right? So now all that person's got $300 million of everybody's money. So like PewDiePie's or one of these guys, you know, the